So now we have to flip it through this way there, because with the building fragments, directly behind his knee. But it was off to the side. So after therapy, it moved around in there, so now it's lodged underneath it.
What a mess.
I'm not the only because it's,
Whoops.
you know, the way it is.
I don't know. It's-
Now, those mics, if you guys didn't know, are tied to these speakers.
Yeah.
So everybody back there can hear you. Plus, it comes through the computer for YouTube. And you are live right now.
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay? Is the microphone facing good? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear
So
better.
with that in mind, anyone who's talking, if they're not at that mic,
Yeah.
isn't heard on the YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah.
So they need to be at the
Yeah, so
podium.
public, when it comes to public comment, we'll have to go to the podium, name and address, and then 3 minutes. Alrighty, I'm gonna start the meeting. Welcome to the Green Lake Township Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting at Golden Fellowship Hall, 9700 Riley Road in Interlochen, Michigan. Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, at 6 o'clock. So if we could all please stand and face our flag for pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Roll call. Ms. Dolan.
Here.
Merrick. Here. E. Wilson. Here. And Calvin Wilson is here. Election of officers? Are we re-upping? Okay.
I make a motion, Kelvin Wilson for chair.
Okay. Can I second that?
I second that motion.
All right. I'll second that. Motion made by Merrick, seconded by Wilson for Calvin to stay as chair.
Roll call works, I think.
Okay.
Or,
Merrick,
yeah.
Dolan, roll call.
Oh,
Yes, no?
yes.
E. Wilson?
Yes.
Calvin Wilson says yes. Okay, on to our member at large.
Vice chair and secretary, don't you?
Okay, we can do vice chair,
I
yep.
make a motion for Ed Wilson for vice chair.
I will second that motion. Motion made by Merrick, seconded by Wilson. Roll call, Merrick?
Yes.
Dolan? Ed Wilson?
No.
Calvin Wilson votes yes, too bad. Secretary is still open. Would you like to move to that position?
Negative.
Okay. Would you like to move to secretary position?
No.
Okay. So that is still open.
Make a motion, Mary Jo, no. She is our recording secretary.
Okay. I would like to keep Dolan then, if she would like to be here still, as a member at large. No?
Need a secretary.
Okay, we need a secretary.
I make a motion, Kim Dolan as secretary.
Was, I guess question, was Chris our secretary? Oh, all right, that makes sense. All right.
Make a motion for Dolan to be secretary.
Maybe we need an explanation of what the secretary does.
I do most of the work.
I was going to
Yeah,
say.
so, if I'm not mistaken, I don't, and I could be completely wrong, because I have not held that position, but keeping note on, like, roll call votes and stuff like that. Not minutes, though, right?
No.
You do the minutes. Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't know the rest of the secretaries on that.
Secretary is supposed to do the annual report and present information to the board. We have a recording secretary who handles the meeting minutes, and then the secretary of the ZBA is traditionally in name, with the exception of the annual report, which I actually do.
Okay. All right. Well, I second Dolan to be the new secretary. Motion made by Merrick, seconded by Wilson. Roll call.
Yes.
Merrick says yes. Nolan? Nolan says no.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll vote it again.
And the chair, Calvin Wilson, votes yes, you're in. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
It's like volunteering in the Army.
Step forward, everyone else steps back.
All right, then I, member at large, Merrick, I vote to stay there.
Okay.
Seconded by Merrick. Roll call, Merrick?
Yep.
Calvin Wilson says yes. Dolan?
It's for minutes?
It's for just member at large. For Merrick to stay in his position.
Oh, yes.
And then Ed Wilson?
Yes.
All right. Nice work. We got through it. Approval of tonight's agenda?
Nothing's coming off, nothing to be added, right?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Other than, we got the new, everybody did see the extension. So the first packet did not show the extension, but we have a packet here in front of us, and then also there was an email sent out as well.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right, I second that to approve tonight's agenda. Motion made by Merrick, seconded by Wilson. Roll call, Merrick?
Yes.
Dolan?
Yes.
Ed Wilson?
Yes.
And chair says yes. Approval of last meeting's minutes. I looked for it, I didn't see anything. That would be the December 18th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
I will
of the December 18th meeting, 2023.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Motion made by Merrick, seconded by chair. Roll call. Merrick?
Yes.
Dolan?
Yes.
Ed Wilson?
Yes.
And yes from the chair. Correspondence? I didn't see anything. So nothing from our friends over in Charleroi tonight. Any conflicts of interest on the board?
Nope.
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 Okay. I have none. All right, on new business. Public hearing, ZBA 24-001, a request for the granting of a variance to Article 4 General Provisions, 4.11, accessory buildings and structures, 5, in the R1 Village Residential or the Lake Residential zoning districts. An accessory structure must be established with a primary structure provided that this accessory structure does not exceed 300 square feet in area. Located at 4407 Lake Avenue in Interlochen, Michigan, and owned by Michael and Don Garn. The applicants are requesting a variance of 276 square feet for the construction of a 576 square feet detached garage. And if you wouldn't mind speaking at the podium, name and address, if they're here. I don't,
All right, there's a copy of what I'm going to read to it. Name, Michael Bundra, address is 4380 Pine Street, Interlochen. Okay, this is regarding the request for zoning variance. It's the second zoning variance requested by the parties. And again, it's requesting a variance from a long-established zoning rule. Need to build a two-car garage 24 by 24 feet. Well, sorry, but it's not really a need, it's a desire. We can go through all the various reasons why you might want that. Looking at this...
is this, sorry, hold on, is this?
We're mixed up.
Yeah, I think we're mixed up here, sorry. Hold on. No worries. Yeah, we'll start with the homeowner if they're here, or somebody representing them, and then we'll open the public comment. Sorry for the confusion. Yeah, I thought you were maybe representing them.
He's a mic too, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay.
There's lots of mics in the world.
Yeah, no worries.
And my apologies for being a little late.
No, that's okay. All right, name and address.
It is Michael Garn. I'm at 4407 Lake Avenue. Thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm Mike Garn, as I said, and I'm back with a revised garage request. Apologize for not being here in September when you had your hearing. I had an out-of-town appointment that came up. And frankly, I was hoping we'd have a blizzard tonight, which would help with my case. But anyway, I want to let you know that I'm a Traverse City native. Grew up off Byton Road on Rex Ranch. My wife Dawn and I are really delighted that we finally got a chance to move back to Interlochen full-time, which we did this summer. Now, we purchased the cottage on Lake Avenue in 2015, and according to my aunt, Mary Hazelton, it was designed and impossibly built by my grandfather, Ralph Bauer, who was a local architect, knew Dr. Maddie back in the 30s. And he also designed central grade school additions and other civic and local structures and things. So it's a bit of the history behind our place. Over the last 9 years, we've done some pretty extensive improvements to the cottage to make it retirable, which is, I'll be 70 next month. And my wife Dawn, who's a pediatric nurse at Munson, well, she's much younger, so. The improvements included spending about $28,000 on upgrading the septic system from the original 1935 cistern to a fully modern system, which has a drain field across the road on lot 23. But there's a problem. It's no different than anybody else experiences. It's the weather, and it's the winter. Now, I know lake lots, while they're lovely, they're small and they're challenging. We would have loved to have added the garage to our house, to the cottage on the other lot, but it's just not really possible on that. Now, fortunately, at the same time we bought that lot, we bought the second lot, lot 23, at the same time, and both for the septic system and additional storage. In fact, we added a 12 by 16 shed that's currently there in the first year, and installed the septic system as soon as after that as we could afford it. Now, also, if you drove by the property recently, you'll see that this fall I put up a temporary tent on the lot to keep the snow off my wife's truck. Well, this pleased her quite a bit. I just found out last week that unlike a residence, we can't have two structures on our vacant lot. So I have a little bit of work to do, and I'm going to be removing the tent. And I'll be removing the shed if our proposal meets your approval tonight. Regardless, our plan was always to swap out the shed for a garage when we moved to Interlochen full-time, and, well, here we are. Now, we're aware of the zoning challenge, but we are still optimistic that our modest and now downsized requests can be seen as a reasonable accommodation that's comparable to and compatible with the existing sizes, locations, and characteristics of the other lots and structures along Lake Avenue. Now, we're optimists, but we're also reasonable realists. We've heard your comments and the questions from the September hearing, and we downsized our request to the bare minimum size, really, of a garage that will protect our two vehicles from each and every delightful season that Michigan has to offer, especially winter. At the reduced size of 20 by 24, the garage we're asking you to approve tonight will give us a modest 576 square feet that we need. This is significantly reduced from the 25 by 33 or 825 square foot garage that we proposed in September. And we believe and hope you'll agree that the additional 276 square feet beyond the limit for an unattached structure on a lot without a residence will be reasonable, supported, and accepted. An additional benefit of downsizing our request is that we no longer need a secondary variance to comply with the 35-foot setbacks from each of the two roads that border the lot's east and west borders. By complying strictly with the ordinance on our cottage lot and by investing in the improved septic system, we have no option but to look to lot 23 for the space to build that garage. Now, I'd like to note that since our presentation in September, we've received permission from the Grand Traverse Environmental Health to place the garage as close as 5 feet from the drain field. And thus, we can now stay in strict compliance with all the relevant ordinances and regulations, and are able to locate the garage within that allowable, very small building envelope. Now, I think it's evident that this request provides substantial justice to myself and my wife, who, as a nurse and a first responder, you know how long it takes to get ice and snow off of a car in the middle of the winter when you're in a hurry. Anyway, the more challenging question is, does it provide justice for our neighbors? Of course, I would argue that yes, that it does. There are many lots along Lake Avenue that have detached structures, and with many at or exceeding the modest size of the garage that we're asking for. And several are far closer to either of the two roads that run through the neighborhood. By granting this variance, we will, as I mentioned, be able to stay within the buildable envelope between the 35-foot setback from Lake Avenue and from Pine Lane, enabling us to strictly comply with those ordinances and be less intrusive to our neighbors in their views. To me, justice in this case is keeping within the character of our neighborhood, in this case by building a garage that is both modest and in keeping with the style, sizes, and shapes common up and down Lake Avenue. I believe our minimally adequate request does exactly that. So in summary, we all know the challenges of lake lots. They're narrow, they're small, they're precious to the owners and to the community. We've addressed the circumstances that are unique to our situation in a reasonable and responsible manner. And we hope they've been able to help us protect our two modestly sized vehicles with a garage that blends in and complements the neighborhood. We're grateful to you folks on the board for your comments and suggestions at the hearing in September. We heard what you said and are back with a revised plan that is a significantly lesser relaxation by almost half than our previous request. So to close, we truly need a garage. And we have the space for one, and the variance we're asking for is the most modest one that will work for the lot, for our needs, and for the neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions at this time?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thanks, you can be seated. All right, I will open up public comment, 617. All right, any members of the public like to speak? Yeah.
All right, refresh, Frank Bundra, 4380 Pine Street.
Thank you.
All right, going through the application and the documents filed with the application, that's the second request as outlined. Need to build a two-car garage. Okay, well, I'm not sure I agree with the need part of that. It's not it's not a right, it's simply, gee, if you have the space to do it. Okay. The last variance, the need was explained to outline, along with drawings and/or some illustrations of several watercraft and quite a lot of other things in the 800 and something square foot version. Okay. Now we're talking about somewhat smaller, and there's no mention of all these. Okay, well, where are they going to go? I suspect probably the portable 12 by 16 may or may not go away. The large pontoon boat, where is that going to get parked? That's also in the area. And do you truly need 24 by 24? That I don't know. Strict compliance, well, the 300 square foot limit was in force long before the purchase of the lots, was well known and just stated, always planned to put a garage. Well, there were other ways to consider it, and perhaps should have been more carefully considered at the time. The placement of the septic system, that could have been altered, other things could have been accommodated. There was another option there too, could have been a holding tank. So then we get to the point of strict compliance, like I said, conformance to the zoning rules. Well, either conform or don't. Substantial justice. I don't see any upside or consideration of the neighbors, myself and others here. I simply see a need for a garage, and put it wherever you can. What I had pointed out in the previous application, and let's say a rebuttal, was there was no careful consideration of runoff from the now impermeable garage. Where is the rainwater going to go? Unfortunately, it lands right on one of the neighbors, up close, right against their footing, and elsewhere, undescribed. And no consideration was given to the presence of the septic system on this lot and another septic system within barely 10 feet of it on the next lot south. And I don't know that that's ever been discussed.
That's your 3 minutes.
Huh?
Your 3 minutes is up.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right. I'll submit written copies. Right?
Thank you.
You got it.
Hi,
Hi.
Kim Duffany, 4361 Lake Avenue. I'm a co-trustee on my Don and Judy Smith's trust for that property. We've been in that house, well, they rebuilt the house in the 80s, but I've been coming up before I was born. Obviously, my family's on property there. We intend to stay there and keep this property in perpetuity because we love Interlochen and we love that area of Interlochen. I grew up there with my extended family. I understand his want to have protection from the elements there. I get it. I know that over the years, my family has had to make modifications to the building that we built after our cottage was burnt down. And we had to conform with the zoning ordinances that Green Lake Township and Grand Traverse County had in place. And I know it's to great frustration to my dad because obviously people want what they want and you can't always get it. I also like that we're a small neighborhood and we usually are very close-knit neighbors, and I want that to continue. So I hope this doesn't cause any bad feelings among all of us because sometimes, certain times of the year, you know, there's only a couple of us there on the road and we meet each other. So I know my dad tried to build a structure just like what my neighbor has been asking for on State Park Highway a few years ago, probably a couple decades ago, but not quite, to store their business materials because they were in the antique business. And he bought a lot specifically to put a pole building on, and they tried to get a variance and they were told no. So they held on to it, hoping that maybe something would change, and it didn't. So they ended up selling it because they knew that it wasn't going to work. And they bought a storage condo barn to put their stuff in. So I get what he's getting at, wanting to do what he wants to do because it's convenient right there. But I also know that we have to be neighbors, and we don't want to obstruct our views and the charm of our neighborhood by putting up structures that inhibit the,
3 minutes.
thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? No? Okay. Closing public comment at 6:24. Okay, board discussion. So as noted, that was one of the concerns, was the drain field being close to the garage the first time. So that did get taken care of, or we see a letter now on that. It is out of setbacks now, which it wasn't before, but we are still at over the allowed square footage for an accessory building. So that's where we are at.
It's the same old issue where these lots were, those were platted out, 1928, 1929, those ones there? I think it was.
Yeah, long time ago, I know that.
It's the same old issue of narrow lots and odd shapes.
Do we have any more questions for Mr. Gahn? If we do, I would just ask that he goes up to the podium again, I guess. You can stay there now, but if somebody has any questions. Did everybody make it back out to look at it again?
Yep. So, there's no one here from 4398, the neighbor? You are?
Okay. Before we get into 15.4, I guess my question is, if we go to one car, would it meet the 300?
I'm not that familiar with sizes of garages and things.
Yeah.
And things like that. I mean, possibly.
Yeah, I'm just guessing off of it. I mean, obviously, I'm not a contractor either, but
That would be 12 by 24.
yeah. I can figure that out right now. Yeah, it would. So, okay. Would a one car, not possible at all, huh?
Well, we got two cars, and
Yeah,
although my wife would get the garage part.
yeah. Okay, that's all I have for you.
Yep.
Okay. Should we go through 15.4?
If you're ready, I am.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions before we jump into it? Okay, we'll start with our 15.4, breaking everything down. 15 forward. Apparently I'm having a stroke. I don't know what's going on. All right, we'll try this again. Article 15, Board of Appeals, Section 15.4 variances. The authority to grant variances shall be exercised in accordance with the following standards. A, the zoning board of appeals may grant a requested non-use variance only upon a finding that practical difficulties exist. A finding of practical difficulties must be based upon the applicant's demonstration of all of the following. We'll start with number 1, strict compliance. Strict compliance with the restrictions governing area, setback, frontage, height, bulk, density, or other non-use matters will unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render ordinance conformity unnecessarily burdensome.
So in Lake Residential, is a standalone storage unit or garage a permitted purpose?
A standalone as in,
No residence attached to it or on the parcel with it? Because it says for a permitted purpose.
well, I mean, we're talking about an accessory building, right?
Correct.
Does that, an accessory building, does that count as a garage? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm not sure if this accessory building is a permitted purpose in that zoning area. Would Alicia be able to answer that one for us?
Article 4.11, accessory structures, does allow an accessory structure not to exceed 300 square feet in area.
So an accessory structure under 300 is allowed.
Thank you, Alicia. Which is up top.
So an accessory structure is permitted,
Yes.
but in the area or the governing, vote density.
It meets setbacks and everything like that, so pretty much the only thing that we are worrying about right now is the square footage of the building. So it meets the setbacks of the lot now. It didn't before. So the square footage is 300, it's allowable. Right now, they're looking at a variance of 276 square feet, so it would be a 576 square foot detached garage. It was 800 before. So that's what we're looking at right now. 825 square feet was the previous, brought to us, it's 576 now. Instead of 25 by 33, it's 24 by 24.
Well, if it's 301, it'd still be over our allowed,
Correct.
so 800 or a foot is outside of what the zoning is done for.
Correct.
And there's a reason that the zoning said we don't want, or the planning commission and the board said we don't want over 300 square foot in these areas. You think it meets one?
Strict compliance with restrictions, governing area, setback, we're not worrying about right now. Frontage, we're not worried about. Height, we're not worried about. The non-use matters is the square footage. Will unreasonably prevent the homeowner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render the ordinance conforming and unnecessarily burdensome. And we could go with a 300 square foot garage, they would still get the garage, but it would only be one car. But it would still allow some sort of a building there for them to park their vehicles in. So now comes the burdensome part of it, is the burden to have one car inside and the other outside. You know, this is the argument that we're kind of going to break down. So I would say that that is kind of a question mark. I mean,
So we can come back to that one if you.
We'll come back
if you'd
to
like. I think, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
we'll come
it's
back
not
to
just
one.
you and I, we've got two others on here as well. I'd like to hear what their
Comments
thoughts
on-
are.
Any other comments on one?
How big is the temporary building he has on there now? Is it like a one car, your temporary building that's on that lot right now? It's like a one car, one of those tents?
Yeah.
And then you got a shed on there, which gives you one building over, okay.
But to be clear, the one car tent will be taken down.
Right.
And the shed will,
And the shed will be taken down.
because we're only approving one.
Right.
over there.
And from what he said, I'm not sure on this, I'm going by what the applicant said. We're only allowed one, so one of them has to come down anyway.
Yeah.
We have to be
Yes.
compliant
Yeah.
with the current. They
Correct.
can't have, if we say
Correct.
no, he
And-
can't have both.
And, yes, and he already stated that that would be coming down. He knew that. Okay, we'll go to number 2. The variance will do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the district. Meets the first part of it. We heard from 2 residents.
So one of the interesting things that I hadn't thought of until recently when we were going through our junk/nuisance ordinance, by having a structure to keep your stuff, my treasures may be junk to you. My fiance says a lot of my stuff is junk, therefore I no longer have it. But by putting it inside of that structure, the big pontoon boat or the little pontoon boat or other accessories going in there gets it out of the sight of the neighbors. It decreases potentially, or has the opportunity to decrease the clutter that may be out there, which could detract. So it has the possibility in that manner to help provide justice to the neighbors. It also could take away from the justice that we wanted to do it, we couldn't do it, we had the same need, now we can't because, I mean, so it's,
Yeah, so that is a good point. I mean, but I think that the junk ordinance, or the nuisance ordinance, sorry, is on our minds just because it just happened.
well, it's been going
That
on
is a
since September.
catch-22. So, yeah, you might not have everything sitting out in the yard, it could be in the garage. Then you have a garage to look at, you have a smaller garage. You do the 300, you're not getting a pontoon boat and a car in it.
Correct.
You're not gonna get anything in it other than a car and probably a workbench and some garden tools, lawnmower, stuff like that. So,
But then you're taking the view, potentially,
yeah,
the view that neighbors may have, or the green space, or the area for the runoff to go into the ground.
yeah, the runoff is tough. I mean, the water's gonna fall where the water's gonna fall. It's still gonna fall in the same spot whether the garage is there or not. Now, it does make it go to one side or the other. So that does change a little bit.
Well, as long as you got gutters running into a well at the rear,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
reduces it.
it's just my opinion.
But the more hard
Water does
surface-
what water does.
The more hard surface you have, whether it's a
Yeah.
building or asphalt,
for soaking
or,
in and
you lose your
Yeah.
ability for that water to do what water
Saturate.
does naturally.
Yeah, saturate. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So I struggle with two.
Yeah, that's kind of a half and half there.
I think it could,
Yeah.
but not necessarily does provide some substantial justice to the other property owners. But when I drove by, it didn't look like there was a ton of valuables out in the yard,
Yeah.
or out in the area, so I struggle with that one, as I do with one.
Okay, any more comments on 2? Okay, moving on to 3. The board must consider whether a grant of lesser relaxation than applied for would give substantial relief to the applicant and be more consistent with justice to other properties. Once again, I don't think it would give substantial relief to the applicant, but that neighborhood, there is a lot of smaller houses and buildings on it. So if you went with the one car, stayed within the variance of 300, we'd be out of the setbacks, everything like that. You actually could go a little bit bigger than 12 by 24. 12 by 24 is only 288 square feet, by me doing the math. So I'm not sure what you could add out of that. You could add a little bit out of that to make it a little bit bigger than that, but, you know, if it was 300, would it be more consistent with the neighborhood?
Well, there's some, at least one bigger
Right side to the road?
standalone accessory structure
Right.
that's right in that area, that's pretty significant
Pretty
size building.
substantial
Yeah, it's pretty
size.
big. I didn't get out and measure it because we didn't have permission to go onto that property, and I didn't even begin to try to estimate what size it was, but it was bigger than 300 square foot, but it was also, it appeared to be on a piece of property that had a residence on it. I didn't pull up my maps to see for sure. So there's some other buildings that are bigger or significantly bigger than the 300, so. As far as flowing into the property, and I think I could say 3 is, there's not much. 301 or 500 and whatever, 576. It's a variance is a variance on this one. I don't think a smaller one is going to provide any real justice for the applicant. You can go a little bit smaller with a 2-car garage than what he's asked for, but not significantly, but then you're not going to get your snow blower or your, some of that stuff that you need in the inclement weather to, that's probably in that storage shed now. So I think 3 is There's nothing else, a smaller variance would not provide justice to anybody really in this case. So I think it meets 3, personally.
Any more comments? Number 4, the need for the variance is due to unique circumstances specific to the property. It's a unique property for sure, small, as always, for this area. And not being on the same property as their residents. But is that a unique circumstance? I mean, it was purchased knowing that it was also not attached.
So I spent some time today in the office trying to figure out how to get DS on this, being that it's 2 properties that are right next to each other. It's not like one property's here and one's 1.5 miles down the road. But there's a road separating, so it can't become the same piece of property. We've done some stuff with other parcels where we joined 2 parcels because they were contiguous, I think is the word. They were joined together. And they didn't have something in between them. And this is on my property, I own to the center of the road. And the road right-of-way is a right-of-way permission I give to the government to use my property for a road. Where the road is not the property of the adjoining landowners, but is public roads. So there's that gap between the 2 properties that we can't join that and make it one. We can for tax purposes, why when you look at what got me going, I looked at the map and I looked at the drawings, I'm like, well, this looks like it's one property. I pulled it up in the tax paperwork. It is one property, but as I dug into it more, trying to figure out a way to say yes, talking to others in the office that deal with this kind of stuff all the time, in not only our township, but others, you can't join those 2 properties. So they're going to be 2 separate parcels, so it might as well be 10 miles down the road, because it's not something you can legally, for purposes of zoning, become one property. Otherwise, I would like to think that our zoning administrator would have said, well, here's an option that you have that we wouldn't even have to have this. But it does not appear to me to be an option. So it does make this property a little bit specific, or unique. But like you said, they bought this knowing that. But 4 says this is specific to this parcel, so I think it meets 4. But that doesn't mean they get the variance. That just means that this property is these 2 parcels being joined, septic tank, house, do meet 4, I don't know what, Ed, what's your thought on this? You had something last time on this that I don't recall what you said. About 4, about the being unique. I think it was you.
I have a question real quick, if you wouldn't mind butting in.
Go ahead.
And I'm not sure who could answer this. Maybe you know. Since the property is not going all the way across the road, was it, and you're not the only property to have your septic across the road in that neighborhood at all. There's actually quite a few. Not on your street, but along State Park Highway. There's a few more like that. The permission, is that a county road or is it a private road? I should pay attention, I should know better in there.
Don't you work for a road commission?
Yeah, I do.
You can't just look at a road and know?
Not this well, I remember looking at the sign.
It's a platted private road for the use of the public in the plat.
Okay, so then the township must give permission for him to run the line across?
Township has no rights over the roads.
So who has the right over the roads?
It would be the association and/or the health department.
Okay. I guess that was my question on the line going through the road to attach it to the house. Since we've established that's not their property, I just was wondering how it worked.
Well, this whole road thing's really got confusing with me because of other issues we've been talking about in the office, that who owns the road, and the township has no authority since I believe it's the 50s over roads.
I'm guessing that and if that's the case, then the health department was probably the one that approved that because they don't want the drain field on the lakeside. I guess that would be I'm sorry.
That's kind of what it looked like in the paperwork in the packet.
That's what all right.
Well, the rules on private roads have changed so much over the years from when how long has that road been there? 1920s?
Was the drain field always in that lot?
No,
It was in a cistern
yeah, it's a system.
on the same side as the house that's,
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
But obviously, health department regulations change.
was it you that said something at the last meeting that we looked at this on floor about this being unique?
The minutes, we have the minutes for last meeting.
Don't remember that far back.
I believe we have them. Yep. Oh, it's not. Okay, sorry.
That was the
That's the
other,
minutes for the other one. My apologies, yeah, you're right.
but I think, if I remember right, we agreed that 4 was still met.
Yeah.
That it is a unique parcel, but I thought maybe it was
Yeah.
Chris that had something that really hit home on why that was a unique parcel the way that was. But Chris, do you have any thoughts on whether it meets 4 or not? Kim, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just making sure. I didn't got my name wrong, or-
It's been a long week.
Do you have any more thoughts on 4? Okay, I believe it meets 4. Number 5, the problem and resulting need for the variance has been created by strict compliance with the zoning ordinance, not by the applicant or the applicant's predecessor. Lovely number 5.
A lot of times on 5, it's gray.
Yeah, I think so too.
This one I don't think is gray. And I'm, once, as always, I'm willing to hear what other people have to say and change my mind, but I think that this is a result of the applicant purchasing this property with the road in between, not being able to become one parcel, and not being able to meet the zoning requirements that you can't have over 300 square foot on this without a residence on it. I think that this is, if there was ever a time that the applicant created the issue, this is one of them. Because they bought the second parcel. They weren't 2 parcels next to each other. It's not because that I guess this is where the, what's his name, Steve would say, change my mind, have a little sign in front of his table. But I can't see a time that this wouldn't be more, or 5 would be one that this was caused by the applicant of any of them that we've seen.
I think what you're referring to was the Forest Home Park, which was the distance from the lots to the lake shore, which is what Chris referred to on that meeting, I believe.
Okay.
Because there used to be, I believe in that setback in the old days, there would have been a rail line that went to the mill at the state park. But he referred to something about the setbacks or whatever for that Forest Home Park. And the way they laid the lots out, but there's been so much erosion there over the years, you know. since
That's
they
why it
laid
was
that
a
out.
unique property, that's right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
that's what caused the unique shape and stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said the rail line ran along the lake.
Ran along the lake,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? So in my opinion, it could go both ways on 1 through 3. Yes or no? Depending on how you want to take it. I agree with having things outside. Gets into our nuisance that we just talked about. And I think it'd be unique because it would be hard for them to put things behind the building because people are still going to see it. That was a big thing that came up in that. And being able to get it inside and out of sight, that's a bonus.
For the neighbors, and for him,
For the neighbors.
and for the owners, you know, keep their property protected.
But, I don't know, maybe the neighbors like looking at boats. So I can't say, I can't speak for any, you know what I mean? In my mind, it kind of goes both ways there. And I understand the want for the bigger garage to put stuff in 100%. It's never big enough. But I think it's yes to number 4 for me. I agree with that. Number 5 for me, I don't believe so. But I'd like to hear everybody else's comments on that, if anybody has any motions, anything like that.
think I'd rather look at a 24 by 24 garage than a temporary garage sitting on a lot.
Well, it wouldn't have to be temporary, it could be a single car garage.
Right.
As long as it's under 300 square feet.
Right.
It would still be a garage.
So has anyone got a compelling argument that 5 would be met? Because I think this is strictly because of the choices of the applicant purchasing the properties that they did with the hopes of building a garage, maybe not knowing what the zoning is when they bought it,
And I can see how that is a thing.
but
And,
a good realtor
yeah,
should tell you, these are restrictions. When you're buying, you should look into what you can and can't do in certain areas. The buyer beware kind of thing.
should, but they don't. When I bought my home, I used Berkshire Hathaway, and I was told nothing. And I actually ended up in here in that position because of that. Because I put some in a setback, I had no idea it was a problem. Especially being on a quote-unquote private road, I didn't think anything of it. But these are here for a reason. And I understand why to buy a home in that spot. It's a beautiful spot. So I understand all this. I get both sides of it. But when it comes to 15.4, we are here to stick to 15.4.
Correct.
And I had to kick the urge when I became the chair. You got to stick with it. Because if you're fair to if you do favors for one person, not for the other, that's not right. That's how I end up in court. I don't like that. So I'm going to make a motion. Is there any more comment before I do this? No. Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to not approve the 576 square foot garage. Because I do think that a 300 square foot building, single car, it's not the full 24 by 24 to get everything in, but this meets the setbacks, so we have no say over it at that point, as long as it's 300 square feet. It's meeting everything, and I think that it would do justice to the neighbors. You could do a 12 and a half by 24 garage, works out to 300 square feet. So it'd be a little bigger than a single car.
I'll support that.
All right, motion made by Wilson, supported by Merrick.
And just to reiterate, I may want this to go, I may not want this to go personally, but I have to go through this, we as a board have to go through this, and it has to meet all 5
Correct. It did not meet.
to be
it did not
consistent
meet
across
number-
the board with any of our
And that's the thing
decisions.
too, I did not meet 5, and it was one way or the other on 3. So, that's why I'm making this motion. Roll call? Merrick?
Yes, which means no. I'm voting yes on your motion to deny their application.
Yes. Okay. Dolan?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
And then Calvin Wilson says yes, so it's been denied. But I appreciate, a huge thing was going to the health department for me, that's awesome. That was a big concern. And then also meeting the setbacks is great. So then it was just the 300 square feet. So hopefully your wife can get her car inside and get some stuff in there.
I appreciate the time and spent.
Yeah, thank you. It was really well put together packet this time, and I appreciate it. So, and I'm glad you guys are in the neighborhood, and that's good.
I agree that the information you presented was very good, it just didn't get me to a yes, unfortunately. And I tried in the office to find something to do it, and I just couldn't find that magic bullet for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so everybody can stay, or they can leave. It's up to you. Some people enjoy it, some don't. So we're going to be moving on to the next. Okay. Yep, thanks.
So this is an extension, right?
So this is actually, This is actually ZBA 23-003 revisited. So we're requesting an extension to the already approved. This was back in April 12, 2023. A request for an extension of a previously approved variance to Article 8 zoning districts 8.6 table of dimensional regulations, water edge setback 50 feet, located at 10359 Wildwood Road, Interlochen, Michigan, owned by Doyle Family Living Trust. The applicants are requesting an extension of 1 year, the previously approved variance of 4 feet to the water edge setback for the construction of a screened porch. And Alicia also gave us, well, it was an email, but
Correspondence.
their correspondence, so I don't see them here, obviously.
Well, I think we've seen this before, COVID, the boom in construction, supply chain issues.
Less
Labor
contractors.
issues.
Yep.
The whole slew of things have caused an issue of smaller projects being able to be picked up by contractors. Like he said he said in his note here to us, people aren't giving him a call back.
Yep.
But believes he can get it done. So the reasons we gave the variance haven't changed, as far as I can tell. I see there's no reason we can't give the extension for the year. So I'll make a motion that we grant the requested extension to the variance we approved with ZBA 23-003.
I will first open public comment.
Okay, good call.
6:56. Nobody here? Don't have to because it's an extension already, right? And they can't turn it down, nothing like that. All right, close again. All right.
I will now make that motion to extend ZBA 23-003 because of unique, as a request.
Yep, and I'd like to know, they do have a contractor, the contractor's working on the house, just has not started on the deck, according to the correspondence. So I will second that motion. Roll call, Merrick?
Yes.
Doyle?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
Calvin Wilson says yes. So the extension has been approved. Okay. Other business, any other business? Anything for next month possibly? Yes, cool. Public comment? Anybody like to speak? Okay. Board comments? Anything?
If you know anyone who can serve, we're looking for people, as you can see on this, so.
Yes. My other comment too, which actually refers to the special meeting, I guess something that I didn't say was the nuisance ordinance. The way I understand it, the lawyer wanted more explained and broke down, which was, a lot of time was spent on that. And then some of it was added, some was not. I want to thank Alicia for spending the time to go through all that, writing that out, and spending as much time as was spent on that. The board did exactly what they needed to do by approving what they wanted to approve, and, did what the lawyer said, but hard when you spend that much time on something. I could see that being a little bit discouraging and not all of it being used. So that's my only board comment, and I'm glad that we were here tonight. I missed being here, so I hope we have another meeting next month. And congratulations on everybody's new positions. So,
Yeah, you too.
I'm like, I need another thing on my plate.
it'll be okay. Okay, anything else?
If anybody out there wants to serve on the zoning board of
Yeah, anybody on
appeals,
YouTube?
we got positions open.
Yeah.
Reach out to Supervisor.
Love to have you.
Yeah, that's right.
Or his deputy.
Yeah. Okay. Board comments done. I will adjourn the meeting at 6:58 PM. Thanks, everybody.